Good
Hey, Denise
afternoon.
R. How you doing, sweetie?
I'm well. How are you?
Okay, I mean, it's tough times. And so the truth is my soul is okay, but my spirit feels buffeted about by so many things, and we can talk about that. But I want to first welcome everybody. Hey, welcome to Trauma Survivors Walking Each Other Home. We meet weekly to share with each other the truth in a safe place. And Denise can tell us right now two of the things we do to make sure, if you will, Denise, to keep this place safe for sharing.
First of all, we always have water nearby, the universal solvent. And you can also, if you get triggered while you're watching this, if you're watching it later, or if you're with us, you can say, "Hey, I'm triggered," and we'll support you right here. But if you are watching it later and you become triggered, you can use the Google search app on your phone and ask for Trauma Survivors Worm Line, and they will hook you up.
And hooking you up is great because it just connects you anonymously with and confidentially with a person who's also a trauma survivor who understands not to judge, to accept, to listen, and to be there for you. So if you've got something that's really pushing your buttons, you can talk about it. It doesn't have to be a crisis. Hotlines are for crises. Warm lines are for sharing with each other. And that's what Denise and I do here. We meet weekly, 3 p.m. on the East Coast, 8 p.m. London. And whatever time where you are, we're glad you're here. And here's the truth. Both Denise and I are trauma survivors, pretty severe trauma. I have complex post-traumatic stress disorders, part of my everyday life. I wake up and I have it. And both Denise and I were old friends, and we are dedicated to finding ways, legitimate, honest, non-Pollyanna ways to live our lives, given we're trauma survivors, to live our lives as our lives, no one else's lives. And when trauma comes our way, which it often does, I can say all kinds of things so that I am not defined by the trauma. My major, if I were to summarize my major hope here, it's that none of us any longer be defined from the outside in, but we get to say who we are, who our true self is from the inside out. And Denise, how would you like to welcome folk to the show, if whether it's the first time or many times they've been with us?
Welcome. We're glad you're here, and we're glad that if we could be helpful. I have found in my years of trying to heal and cope with this trauma is that I do better. I help myself when I'm helping others. And, if I have a continuous focus on the healing.
Thanks, Denise. And I've discovered one of my ways of recovering is to do what I was forbidden to do. And as I say this, I invite you to see, were you encouraged to do this as you were a child, as you were growing up, as an adult? Do you feel comfortable doing it now? I am learning to ask for help. I am learning. I am not the only person on earth who has suffered trauma and who needs help. And although I'll never, by pray, impose anything on anybody else, I can say, look, I'm having a panic attack right now. I need a hug. Could you please hug me? And just that human connection is one of the cures. It's like drinking water, it's just asking, reaching out for help. Human connection and my ability to say, I need help. It's taken me decades and I'm learning it, and it really helps. So if you're with us and you want to type into the chat anything that you'd like us to focus on, please do. And if you are like many people who are now joining us after the fact, hello, we're glad to be with you. It's Denise Rokicki and Holly Elissa Bruno. And as Denise says, Denise, it's okay for people to contact you afterwards?
Yep. I'm fine if you look me up on Facebook and say where you saw me, and I will definitely chat with you.
And same for me, same for me. So today, The first thing I want to do is check in with Denise about how she's feeling and how I'm feeling. And I do that because trauma survivors, our childhoods were described really well by Dr. Claudia Black when she said, children were taught, usually not in writing, but we got the message, shame, 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 or the message, don't you dare talk. Don't you tell anybody. And of course, here's the problem. The second command is don't trust. But the people that they're telling us don't trust anybody outside the family, but usually the abuse is being done by a family member. And so the sad thing that does is teaches me not to trust myself. I know it's not safe to trust a person who's going to, I invite you to put up your boundaries here, who's going to, in a heartbeat, go from 0 to 360 in terms of rage. I said, I can't trust that. I can't trust that. If I trusted myself, I would know how to hide and take care of myself as a child. So the three rules are don't you dare talk with anybody else. Don't trust anybody except us and the family. And 3, and here's the hard one for me, because I lived with it for so long. And Denise, you said you do too. The third commandment, don't feel. So what I find useful as another tool besides asking for help, as a trauma survivor, I like to take a moment, take a sounding, because sometimes I got to go deep down in those deep waters and ask, how am I feeling? And so, Denise, either one of us could start with that, as the folk listening can ask themselves if they want to. You're always at choice here. Everything we do is an invitation, not a command. Denise, do you want to do that, or would you like me to go first? It's up to you.
Yeah, I'm feeling really good, actually, like things are falling into place. I have a relaxed pace in my daily living. Uh, I feel good.
I'm so glad. And that happiness may come from your pursuing one of your dreams. And I want to ask you about that. I'm going to check in on how I feel. And I love, as Walt, what is his name? Ralph Waldo Emerson said in a poem, or as a poem called Compensation. He said, when my friend is down, I'm up so I can be there for my friend. And when I'm down, my friend is up. So what often happens with Denise and me is we feel different ways. And you know what? As a trauma survivor, we have a right to feel any which way. If you're angry, you might have been taught, like Denise and I were, don't you dare. Don't you? I'm sorry, I don't mean to threaten you, but that's what I was threatened with was, oh, little girl, we only like to see a smile on your face. Nobody likes to see a frown. What else did you get as a message, Denise, if you expressed anger?
Act like a lady.
Right. And we both learned to act like a lady. We're supposed to smile. We're supposed to help the boys feel good about themselves. And we were supposed to keep our knees together, honey.
Yep.
You never showed, it's like the princess of England, right? She's got to sit just the right way. Well, honey, I was a tom girl. I'm out there playing all the time. How am I going to climb a tree with my knees together? Tell me that. So that was one of the sillinesses. And so let me level with you. Today, I feel sad and I feel angry. My soul is good. That deeper true self part of me is good, optimistic, hopeful, resilient. But my spirit is addled. My spirit is taken down by all of the things I keep seeing in this country, which I thought was a democracy. I live in the United States of America. I thought we had all agreed to respect one another's differences. I thought we valued those differences. And every day, from the top down, I see innocent people losing their livelihood. And you and I know, without a livelihood, how do we support ourselves? I see children being taken off of medication that they need to survive. I see people not being fed. I see programs being shut down that matter deeply. And I have friends that are calling and saying, Holly Elissa, I lost my job. And they're not just saying I lost my job, they're saying I was told. These are people who, after years of steadily building their professionalism, and really professional people move up to the highest positions. And what happens? Get a letter saying, you're not qualified. You don't deserve this position. We're firing you. If they instead said, look, we're doing a cutback to try to save money, and we're just doing this, and you're involved in it. It's not about you. But of course it is. But something kinder would have helped. But there's no kind message in saying, you don't belong. You don't belong here anymore. Your livelihood is over. So I'm angry, Denise, about that. And every day, whenever I hear the latest thing that's happened, I get angrier. This is not fair to people. I'm a senior. I'm going to be 80 at the end of this year. I rely upon Social Security. Do I work? Yes, I do. But do I depend upon Social Security? Yes. And do I have a right to that? Denise, do you have a right to that Social Security you hope to be getting?
Yeah.
And why, sweetie?
I've worked since I was, 15 years old and put into it. And so I deserve it. And I've been waiting for it for, just a couple more months.
It's going to happen in May.
Yes.
That's so good. And you know what? Every time that money got put away, I didn't think about it. But the older I got, I said, thank God. Thank God I did that. And thank God I had, when I worked at the University of Maine, a organization that was willing to match what I put into my retirement. So I saved this money. I didn't spend it. We deserve it. And I know so many seniors, do you as well, Denise, that have to have Social Security?
Yes, that's their only source. And for me, because of that Great Lakes Community Action Partnership program I was in, I was able to roll over all my retirements from all the years here and there and everywhere into then, and they matched it too. So not only do I have a little nest egg, not a huge one, but a nest egg and Social Security.
That's so good. It's not that we're ripping off anybody, it's that we planned to take care of ourselves and we're not alone.
Right.
And so I'm angry about those things. I'm angry about people who are patriots being labeled traitors. I'm talking specifically about who is the Gabby Gifford's husband, Mark Kelly. Mark Kelly was in Afghanistan fighting. Mark Kelly went to the outer space for us. Mark Kelly has worked for the Constitution and to defend America for his entire life, not just to defend America, but promote freedom his entire life. To be called a traitor, I'm angry about that. I'm also sad because as I see people being hurt, I have empathy. And empathy tells me, if you're hurting, I can feel that. Now, it's not the same as codependency. Codependency is when I depend upon you for my emotional cues. That's also called people pleasing, which trauma survivors do real well. If I look to you to be happy, for me to be happy, I can't be happy. But if I look to you and I feel how you're doing, then I have a choice. And Denise makes this choice every day with the children she works with, the adults too. And you do. We make choices about how can I be present? How can I bring my experience, strength, and hope as a person who was abused? How can I bring that to this connection right now? And what I'm bringing right now, I'm going to ask Denise what she's bringing right now too. What I'm bringing right now is my ability to be a voice for the voiceless. I was taught to be silent. I was taught to never acknowledge what happened to me. My father literally said to me, both my parents said, if you want something to talk about, to cry about, I'll give you something to cry about. But my father would say to me when I would remember something he did not want me to remember, he would say, you did not see that, daughter. And as I've mentioned, my older sister who died early, she died from an autoimmune disease. And her way of coping with the trauma of our childhood was to say everything was wonderful and perfect. She came from the perfect family, and she could not remember anything from our childhood. So, what I bring today is that empathy and the ability to say, I accept what you say because it's true for you. Denise, what do you bring in today to the folk listening?
Uh, I did want to say that I reflected upon the panic attack that we discussed last week. And I remembered one time that might have had a panic attack, which was when I got too many mosquito bites.
Yes.
And I was having a allergic reaction, and I couldn't stop crying about it. I think that might, and I was in a complete panic. I wanted to say that. I was reflecting on our our discussion last week, and that's what I remembered.
And
And
thanks. Thank you.
what I bring today is that yes, there are so many abuse survivors who go to their grave with never telling a single soul out of fear. And that's why I speak up. And that's why I want to tell the truth so that I can heal through my voice and so that other people know that you're not going to die if you tell.
Because that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. And Denise is exactly confirmed by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote a crucial book for trauma survivors. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. And I met with Dr. van der Kolk, and what he said was he believes 80% of us go to our graves carrying the secret of our trauma. We're doing it out of loyalty to our families. Not supposed to tell anybody what happened. My father was the perfect dad. That's what I was supposed to say. My mother was the perfect mom. That's what I was supposed to say. They were not evil, bad people, but they were suffering people. And the saying goes, hurt people, hurt people. All they knew to do from their narcissism, sadism on my father's part, and psychosis, mental illness on my mother's part, all they knew to do also was to survive. Denise and I are here today to say, we can live. We can live. And Denise has been pursuing a new dream. And I love that about her, that she's pursuing this new dream. And we all, I mean, I don't know if you are, but I am too. That's always something that we can give back. And Denise, tell us about that. Sounds like you've taken another step. What's your dream and where's going on with it?
With the telepathy tape, my interest in
Helping
non-speaking
children with non-speaking children on the spectrum.
on the
Yeah.
spectrum. Yeah. I did email like three of there were 8 schools here in Toledo that serve autism. 2 of them were day schools for adults. They're probably speakers. That's my guess. If they're working in a day program, they probably speak. So I eliminated those 2. I emailed 2, and I have 2 others that are phone call only, which I have not done, but I did not get any information back from the emails. Then I learned a
Can I ask you a question first, sweetie?
sure.
As a trauma survivor to trauma survivors, when you take one action like that, even if you don't get a response, do you have a sense that that action might have triggered something in you or elsewhere?
Yes, yeah, in the universe. I mean, when we let the universe know what we want, it will start lining things up for us. And hopefully that is what happens. I visited one center that I uh, didn't love, but I visited.
You found out. You found out, girl.
Right, I did a cold call at the front door. So
Good for you.
that's brave.
Yes, it is.
And
And as a trauma survivor, sweetie, why would you say, I'm not going to do that? I'm
Uh,
not going to do a cold call. Who am I to do that?
right. Worthiness, issues is what we have to fight with or struggle with. But
I
I am
fight. I fight all the time before, often before I make a phone call, I have to like remind myself, sweetie, even if you get a no, you're asking what you need to ask, and just asking has taken you down the path. So I'm sorry, sweetie, what were you going to say?
that's what I've been doing. I've also been watching a lot of videos, podcasts about the topic and exploring the topic as much as possible. It's kind of expensive to learn the skill of spelling and buy the materials and get certified, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have enough money left in my checking account after this non-working period in my life that I went through for a year. I still have, so I might be able to just pursue that
I think
school.
that would be wonderful. And also, I give you credit, sweetie. You have been working. You have been
Yes,
out there doing story time. You have been out there tutoring, sometimes for free, maybe
right.
always for free. And you have been working.
I
So
have
thank
been
you.
inactive. I'm not saying that, but I have not had my income,
I hear you. Some
which I
regular,
was, a
steady
Head
income.
Start employee, and Head Start, they are the highest paying for early childhood workers. So, I really lost out on a year's worth of income. However, I did not use my entire savings, and I'm probably still going to have some left over, and I'll be collecting Social Security soon. So life is
We
good.
hope, pray, we pray. And thank you. Thank you for making a decision to take care of yourself because as a trauma survivor, who were you supposed to take care of, girl?
Everybody else, all y'all.
Oh, y'all. When I was born, my mother was probably in a haze of drugs, medication, and psychosis. She couldn't be there for me. Babies need someone to look into their, to hold them and to comfort them. And my mother couldn't do that. And my father was so outraged that I was his last child and I wasn't his son. And so he was just outraged. So how did I survive that? And how do a lot of traumatized children survive that? By learning to read everybody else's needs from a very early age and take care of them. I took care of my mother. I learned early on, don't bother her. And she said to me one time, when you were a baby, you used to watch, we had sheer curtains back in the days. She said, you just used to be fascinated by the way the breeze would pick up the curtains and move through them. And then she added, and thank God, because I didn't know what to do with you. And there was the truth. A lot of times, the people who abused us or neglected us, with my mother, it was more neglect than abuse, although there was abuse. They tell us the truth in a second-handed way, not directly, but indirectly. For example, when my beloved son, Nicolo, arrived from Korea, and I was so happy to see him, and my parents came to meet him. And the first thing my mother said to me was, may no one abuse him. Now, that was from her heart. That was her greatest wish for him. And there it was. She would never say, I was abused. She would never say, I was an incest survivor. I had to find all those things out on my own. And I had to believe myself when I found them out. But we often, have you had that, Denise, where someone gives you like information through the side door, but it's pretty important information?
Um, well, I have liars in my family, so it's really hard. I don't know if I don't know.
The gift there is not a gift, it hurts. But what we can mine deeply, go into the mind for is this, you know, a lie. You know when you're being lied to.
I do.
You do. I'll never forget at my wedding at age 31, I was in Maine on the coast, and I was having lunch with my parents afterwards. And one of them said, because they often said the same thing, one of them said, "We're so grateful that we never had to discipline you girls. You were always so obedient." And I had just been through a major life event. And even if I hadn't, I don't think I could have put up with that kind of abject lie. And I said to them, "You beat us. You beat me. I can't say that you didn't." And there it was. There was the lie. The expectation, Denise, was that I would, and the lawyers say corroborate, that I would agree to the lie. But the more I stopped agreeing to the lies, not to hurt anybody, but to say, that's not what I experienced. We certainly lived through a different experience. I have been disowned from my family members, from many of them, for acknowledging that I'm a trauma survivor. And I've been very, very careful to not ever shame or blame somebody else. I know my mother came from an absolutely difficult environment. Her father was an active alcoholic, abandoned 8 children during the Depression, to a mother that had her own mental illness challenges. How did those children survive? The girls dropped out of school and put to support their mother. There it was again. Thou shalt take care of your parent who's not an adult. Does that make sense, Denise?
Yes.
Did you feel you had to do some of that?
I did feel like I was the adult a lot of the times.
And do you think that's part of the trauma survivor syndrome?
Um, I guess, yeah. I mean, it depends. I guess in order to abuse a child, you probably do, or neglect a child, you probably do have mental health issues. So, yeah, I think it's part of it. It's
When
part of our
people,
coping.
yeah, girl, and when people are not nurtured as children, they grow up real fast. And it's what you were talking about you being a parentified child. You were the one that raised your little sisters. You're 4 years old, 5 years old. That's not fair to take a childhood away from anybody. And so one of the writers that I really appreciate says trauma survivors get into adulthood with two enduring heartaches. One is the sorrow that we didn't get a childhood. We didn't get to be children. We didn't get to play. We didn't have people that were around us loving us. We didn't get people that said, "What did you do today that you loved? Denise, what'd you do? Or what did you discover today? Or tell me about that painting you just did. I love it. I want to hear, you chose some really unusual colors there. Unusual for me, but tell me about that." We missed all of that. We missed it all. And so what we did develop skills at, and Dr. Judith Herman says, trauma surviving children have remarkable creative capacities. And Denise, her life journey has been using those skills of knowing how to be with children to turn that into a wonderful professional life, especially able to sense and feel and look out for, accept and love the children who other people couldn't. So there it is. That's a benefit of being a parentified adult. And yet here's what that writer said, Tony A. He said, adult children who are traumatized and become adults have a deep sorrow that comes back again and again. And I have that. And we also have rage, a ball of rage. He said, it's a hot, fiery ball of rage inside of us that injustice was done to innocence. And that word innocence is one that Denise has reminded me of, because children that are traumatized, they're innocent and their brains lock up. So when Denise was saying, hey, we were talking about panic attacks, that was a way that my brain locked up. It protected myself. If my brain could just shut down and I didn't know what was going on, all I could do was survive. That helped me survive a horrible situation. Just like Denise, you used something else, right? When you took off from your body.
Yeah, I astral projected during abuse.
Absolutely. And did that help?
Yeah, well, I did it because I didn't want to get lost. I was trying to not have the bodily sensations, and then uh so that I would watch and never forget what happened to me. Somehow I knew that I didn't want to forget this evil.
That it is an evil to take away innocence. And what Denise often says is the word that we use as trauma survivors, which is we learn to dissociate from our bodies. Dissociate is just what Denise is saying. We step away from the pain that we're enduring. If I was being beaten, I either stepped away by envisioning myself going up to the heavens, or I stepped away by fainting, by blacking out. If I couldn't take it, I on occasion blacked out. And that took me out of the immediate pain because it was physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, every kind of pain to be a trauma survivor. So, Denise, I just wanted to be sure that you got to say what you were thinking of, because you were, I think, starting to say that you had some good news about something. And maybe the good news was that you've taken steps to pursue this dream you have of being able to communicate even better with children who are nonverbal and are on the spectrum. Was there something else you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to say, or was it taking those steps that was the deal?
Right, I've just taken some of the steps, and I'll keep going till I find my place in that world.
And you will,
I
and
will.
she
Yep.
will, and she'll bring her special skills. That's a great thing about trauma survivors. Wherever we go, we bring our special skills. I have become a writer, and I'm now writing an article for Exchange magazine on identifying and describing one of the most difficult, impossible situations we face as adults. And how on earth, when I felt all those things that survivor feels, I can't do this. I'm not worth it. I'm not strong enough. I just want to go to bed and pull up the covers over my head. How on earth can we actually find a way to face and resolve the issue so it's no longer impossible, and at the same time grow? Because there's something in us that wants to grow, because our growth was, and the word my parents used was stunted. You drink coffee, your growth will be stunted. Our growth emotionally was stunted. So every time we make a decision that's tough, that I don't think I can make, and I don't think I can write, I can look at 6 books and say, you've written those, but it doesn't matter. In the moment, I need to say, you've got a voice, Holly Elissa, and it's worth sharing. So I've been invited to write an article. Actually, I volunteered to do this and I was accepted to write an article on that with a woman from South Africa who was imprisoned when her son was 10 months old, imprisoned for speaking out against apartheid. So, yeah, that's one way in which I can heal. And another thing that Denise and I are doing, we invite you to this, is we found a poem. We've posted it again on our Facebook pages. And what we did last week was we just started responding to the poem and what it tells us about being trauma survivors in recovery and how it can help us. And Denise, I think, has got it in front of her.
I
And if
do.
she read the whole thing to us and then go back maybe to the place where we stopped. And I think you probably remember where we stopped. And as she's reading this, we invite anybody listening, how does this poem speak to you? Where do you feel it in your body? Where does it touch you? Or how do you respond? Maybe you have an intellectual response. For me, it's a bodily response. For you, whatever you have is okay.
I'm not crazy. I was abused. I'm not stupid. I was manipulated. I'm not shy. I'm protecting myself. I'm not bitter. I'm speaking the truth. I'm not hanging on to the past. I've been damaged. I'm not delusional. I've lived a nightmare. I'm not weak. I was trusting. I'm not giving up. I'm healing.
I'm going to ask Denise if she's willing to, as you look at all of those sentences and statements, I'm not this, this is my truth. Which one of those touched you today as you were reading through?
Right this time it was the I'm not bitter. And the reason why that triggered me is because I have a sister who was born when I was 18 years old or 19, 18 years old. And so when she was two, she moved away from me down to Columbus, Ohio with my stepfather, my mom. The family moved. I was still in the University of Toledo, so I wanted to stay here and continue my education. So I moved in with my aunt. And so then I moved away after I graduated from college. I moved away to Phoenix, Arizona for 35 years. So I didn't, have an ongoing relationship with my youngest sister. She didn't know some of the stuff that my other sisters knew. She was born after my abuse stopped. So, I don't even know if she was aware of that. Although she did become aware of it when she was in elementary school because my other sister reported it and they got called down to downtown Delaware for a psychological evaluation with somebody there. I don't know. And that's when my stepfather admitted abusing me. And my younger sister was there at that meeting. But I don't know if what she heard or what she knew. So when I returned, I that's why this part that says I'm not bitter stuck out to me today because I didn't want to talk to her about it. I didn't want to have to tell her what her father did to me. And, but it came up, like in the second or third year that I was here, it came up that I was either going to lie and say, yeah, mom's right. We had the perfect childhood, or I was going to tell my truth. And so I did. And one of my worries was that, that she would believe that I'm carrying a grudge or that, I'm bitter. And that's why I'm holding it, it's got to come out or whatever. But it didn't come out bitter. It came out like facts, these are the facts. This is what happened. I don't need to talk to you about this. I don't even want to talk to you about this. But the truth is, this is what happened. So that's why that one really stuck out to me because I didn't come here trying to malign him or say bad things about her dad or anything like that. I came back, to well, I had to tell her because it was the truth, not because I was bitter.
And were you in a safe place to do that?
Yes, yeah, we were alone and we were at her home and we have not had to talk about it again. Once she knows, she knows, why I was gone for 35 years.
And if she wants to ask, she can ask.
She can ask and she knows that I will be honest
Mhm.
and truthful and, not build up some non-truth.
So Denise, read the rest of that. It's saying, I'm not bitter, I am.
Speaking my truth.
Why do you feel, or how have you experienced this, when people who speak their truths are accused of being resentful, are accused of being bitter? Why does that come up so often?
Because the people that uh, perpetuated whatever who did the harming, they want to protect themselves. So they try to make you look like you're overwhelmed, you're over exaggerating, like my mom tried to believe that it happened to me once. That's what she was trying to believe for her own safety. And I said, no, that is not how it happened. It went on for years.
I am so sorry. No child deserves that. No one
No.
deserves that. And yet, here's something I've learned from doing work over the years with trauma therapists. One person helped me see that when a family holds on to a lie, like we're from the perfect family, and that's what I was taught, we're from the perfect family. Hold on, they're holding on to a very thin gossamer thread of connection to the myth that everything was perfect and nothing hurt at all. And if they will even turn to acknowledge the truth teller, they might lose that grip, which is a grip on a kind of sanity. If my identity, here's what I learned, if my identity is based upon being part of a group and that group being wonderful, and we're the we're the Rodriguez family, we're wonderful. We're the Horatio Elder family, and we're wonderful. If my identity is hooked to that, and my belonging to that family is hooked to that, I'm going to hold on to that gossamer thread no matter what. And if someone like me comes along who's truth telling, who says, yes, I am an incest survivor, I'm going to bat me, out of the picture, because that threatens my identity. Did that make sense?
Yes, because the big scary thing is that we'll be excluded from our family, and you were from parts of your family, and I self-excluded in order to heal.
That's
And
interesting. Interesting. We both self-excluded, and I was excluded, still am. There are still members of my family that do not speak with me. And when I said to them, I need to speak the truth to be able to heal. And I don't need to blame anybody. I just need to acknowledge what I experienced. And the person who I've never seen since, a patriarch, said, no, we don't talk about that. And then one of the younger men came around and poured up my glass until it was almost falling over with wine. That was the way. That was the way. So truth tellers are seen as bitter. Why bitter, Denise? I mean, why not just troublemakers? Why bitter?
yeah, because we must be bitter in order to tell, or in order, yeah.
To
And we
disobey the family rule.
and we are bitter. I mean, we were robbed of innocence. We were not provided with the essentials that we needed to make a good life, that we were denied love. And I'm not trying to blame either. I still believe my mom did the best she could with whatever she had at the time. Now she just remembers these last few years when she's been, a different kind of woman, slightly. She, but she doesn't remember, that part, or probably she chooses not to remember. But anyway, I always say she did the best she could with what she had.
And I hear you. And I'm going to say that I am not now bitter. I don't think bitter is the word, but was I enraged? Yes. Was I sorrowful? Yes. Did I hold my father in particular accountable for the sexual abuse and the physical abuse? Yes. I hold him accountable for that. Thank you. That is totally illegal now to do to a child. But what I've learned over the years, I didn't always have this. What I've learned over the years is that if I carry a resentment,
It hurts me.
it's just hurting me.
Right.
It just does me no good to be resentful of my father. In fact, once I caught on, I don't know, I was like 40 or something. Once I caught on to that, I wrote my father and my mother a letter. Now they were raised me very white. So we did white gloves and we did thank you notes. Thank you notes. I wrote them both a thank you note, and I took a long time to come up with a list. I made sure that the lists were equal numbers so they wouldn't get pissy at each other. But I just wanted to do that for whatever reason, equitable. Anyway, I said to them, here are things that I'm thankful to you for. And they were real, they were honest. My father worked hard. He modeled hard work. He barely ever missed work. My mother loved doing flower arrangements and she was good at it. Those things helped me. Those things helped me. And I said thank you. And I decided I could not say to them, and here's the rest of it. I decided not to do that, just to thank them because I wanted to not hold a resentment to them. And at that point, I also decided that I would use my time with my father as research time to learn what I could about who he was and why he was the way he was. And that was decades before I knew about narcissism. It's only in the last 10 years I knew about narcissism. And once I got that, I realized it was never about me. A narcissist cannot see or love anybody else. I thought he didn't love me. He didn't because he couldn't. So it's
Right.
not about bitter, sweetie. And as we get to a close here, is there anything else that comes to you that you'd like to share with folk about what you've learned and what you're learning as a trauma survivor so your life is better now than it ever was before?
Um, you know, my work, I was kind of a workaholic. And I put all my goodness, good skills and good heart and political activism and all that into my work. So now it's taken me a year to make a new me that is not, I do work. I do have story times, 4 days a week and whatnot, but I'm not in the 40-hour grind. And I'm just so thankful that I've had this opportunity to, just explore what I'm interested in and do what I love. And it really took learning and it took the whole year to figure out how I want to spend my time and right now it's like I'm in a good place. I have enough community service that I feel satisfied. I have enough creative self-expression. My parts are happy. All my parts have some goodness going.
Thank you. And if you're not familiar with internal family systems, that's what Denise is talking about. Would you just describe that a little bit for people that might not know it? Because this is something that helps trauma survivors.
It does. We have parts within us, like, for example, a protector that maybe is the one that took my consciousness up into the corner of the room to protect me. So we have different parts of ourselves that protected us, encouraged us. We weren't encouraged by our family. We had to come from the inside. So those are our parts.
Yes. And some of us call those parts inner children. You can have
Yes.
an inner child at 1 month old, 10 years
Most
old.
most people are aware of that's one of their parts. But there's other parts also besides the inner child. We have an old woman wise self. We have a very productive mother self who sorts things out for us or whatever. We all have, many parts in us. And if we can honor them and recognize them and thank them, it's helpful.
It is. And what you said about the guard, I call the sentinel. I have always had a sentinel that has protected me from getting hurt even more. And I have thanked that sentinel and said, thank you so much for stopping me before I got hurt again. Now you can take a break because I'm able to feel the pain and not run from it. Now you can go out and take a break.
Right.
So, our friends, thank you for being with us. We invite you right back here next week. And we know that a number of you are watching these after the fact and love you, and appreciate that. So, if you ever want to join us here, we will welcome you, and we welcome you wherever you are.
And I'll send you the link.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll post that poem again. So if you want to reflect on it, you can, because what's the next line, Denise? Because I think maybe we'll be looking at that one next time.
I'm not hanging on to the past. I've been damaged. I am not delusional. I have lived a nightmare.
Yes. Embracing the truth is one of the hardest things. It's easier to hold on to that gossamer
Pretend.
thin thread, like, even if my identity is totally at risk because I want to be part of that group. We know that neuroscientists are saying we have to feel we belong somewhere. And if we feel like our family is where we need to belong, we'll do anything. We'll do anything to stay part of that family. What Denise and I are discovering is not at the expense of losing myself.
Right.
Not ever again. I have relationships with people in my family who can accept me and whom I accept. They don't have to be any different than what they are. We just need to live in reality, because insanity is not accepting reality. Denise, my friend, thank you so much. Have a great week. And I'm very happy to see you again next week.
Yep. Oceans of love.
Oceans of love, girl. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you.